Wonderful.
Yes.
So, a very good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Lyceum evening, coming to you from the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. Got a wonderful gentleman, and I have the privilege that he is staying here during this weekend down here at Poole. Due to operational reasons of two computers close by each other and feedback galore, he is now banished to the bedroom.
My own, I hasten to add.
Yeah. So we have the wonderful Chris Jacobs with us. Chris, very good evening to you.
And to you, thank you very much for your invite on this wonderful weekend.
Yes. We've just had a wonderful day today with a one-day seminar for people. And this is sort of like the thread that I would like to pick up on, is because we said about working with beginners today. Your presentation, I was just sat there and I thought, this is really refreshing to hear, because you didn't leap in with the mechanics of making a message. How do we do this? How do we do that? This obsession we've got with workshops and how to do a better message, how to do that. We were actually talking. We started off, the first part of the session was all about prayer, and that was wonderful. Yeah. That was really good. Where's that inspiration come from, Chris?
Well, it's always something that I remembered back to my youth, as I say, about 1,000 years ago, when the mediums of old and Glyn, Gordon, and all of them used to come from that same perspective, that, I don't think they quite understand. People nowadays have understand what the benefit of prayer, what it actually is. We're taught nowadays with prayer that, we're humble and beg for this and beg for that, but actually that a deep, meaningful connection in prayer really benefits you both with your mediumship, if you're learning that, but spiritually and also personally, because you're learning to elevate yourself, you're learning to listen, you're gaining those skills that will be necessary within your mediumship.
Most definitely. I know the attendees today, when you first started off, I could see a few of them going, this isn't what I expected. But by the end of the day, every single one of them were going, actually, it may not have been what I expected, but that was really good. Because, we've been sharing conversations as we do during this weekend. And the emphasis, this is my opinion, and anybody out there, if you disagree, absolutely fine. Excuse me, is on the phenomena of making an evidential communication. And we're neglecting the well-being, maintenance, and evolution of the medium themselves. What do you think on that?
Absolutely. I've always had this philosophy, as I talked to you earlier on today, that you decide what kind of medium you want to be, and it starts with you, it ends with you, and you have to do that work, and if you can learn the art of prayer and to learn to truly listen within that prayer, that goes across all disciplines. That goes across the board. You can even use the elements of it, as I was showing you today, within your meditation and within your attunement, and learning to sit within that power. So I think what it is we've just, I think as mediums, I'm really starting to see that, we don't listen enough. And that's such a shame.
Yeah, that is very true. Just do a quick few hellos. Neil Payne is in the room. Hello, Neil. Nice to see you again.
Oh,
Lovely Maggie Baker and the wonderful Pauline from Southampton. Oh, Matt. Excuse me, frog in the throat. Lovely, Matt. Yes, it's lovely to be back, Matt. It's 2 weeks without the Lyceum. I've had withdrawal symptoms. This time last week, I was in Holland thinking, what the hell am I doing here? Why have you invited me over here? I don't know. I want to go home. I want my cat. But yeah, it's very difficult to put into words the emotion and the feeling that I get sometimes with the movement of spiritualism. We're all, we're all over 21, and if you're not 21, please turn off. We're all over 21, and some of the things we've been seeing, especially of late, where mediums are attacking openly other medium, and I can't find the right word for it, because it's an emotional repulsion when they see this. I know people, they do their own thing, and that's great. It's not my thing, and that's fine. You're happy doing your thing, and that's fine. I don't see the need to come, online or start sitting there. These people must be typing like that.
Yeah, the keyboard warriors, as they call them.
Gosh, it's just awful. But it does trigger thoughts. It does make me think and look into deeper. And we're all going to see things through a different lens. But I do feel that an awful lot of this enmity that we see and aggression between mediums, and especially aired publicly online. I've had a couple of times I've messaged somebody and just gone, you've put this out, I'm really not sure about this, XYZ, but that's a private conversation. That's not, oh, look, world, look at me, poor me, I'm suffering so much. Everybody's a narcissist because I've studied psychology on Facebook. But it does lend to me that maybe over the last 25, 30 years that the actual evolvement of the medium has become second to the phenomena of presenting a message. And that's that. And I think we're paying the price for that a bit now. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's a sad reflection of life at the moment, how things are. There are a lot of people disgruntled with life, their lot in life. They, I think it's all this kind of one-man-upmanship. And within spirituality, that really should not have any bearing, really, at all. There's room for everybody, really, isn't there, in life, when you look at it that way. But to actually openly attack people on places like here, the social media, I think that really says more about you than it does about them.
Oh, hugely.
Your own failings or your own misgivings. So, I'm not saying that everybody's like that, and some people feel that it's very just to do it, but be mindful of what's the real reason you're doing it for.
Yeah.
Be mindful of, to me, I've never been a person that I like doing lots of texts or doing it on these things. If I've got anything to say, I prefer to do it to your face.
Oh, very much.
Love to talk to your face, and so there's no mix up, there's no misunderstanding, because you can send a text to somebody, you've sent it in what you believed was good taste and correct, and they read it in a whole different manner.
Yes, I have learned that the written word can go, hey, I never said that. Yes, you did. You said XYZ. And I went, yeah, well, if you put it in that way, yes, I did say that, but I didn't mean that. So, yeah, apologies.
The intention wasn't there, so I think really it's just a sad indictment of the times, really, I believe, at the moment. But if we remain true and true to your ethic, then we should be okay. We should come through it okay.
Yeah, very much. And
You know,
again, quick. Oh, sorry, carry on.
So no, it's okay.
Just quick few hellos. Lovely Barbara, who I had the privilege. She was on the weekend last weekend. So yes, I did like it in the Netherlands. I liked it very, very much. In fact, I've got a bag half packed, ready to go back.
Oh, they didn't revoke your passport then?
Well, they did, but I've got two, so that's all right. Lovely Ashley, good evening, sir. Moya, hello, darling. Nice to see you. And yeah, so Maggie Baker. Unfortunately, there's no emotion in text messages.
Absolutely correct. Or the true emotion isn't in text, shall we just say?
Yeah, and that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because that picks up on something from your seminar today.
Yes.
You know, about delivery of messages. So we're not just talking in the physical world, and we're talking in the spiritual world as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the concept was about conversation, wasn't it? You know, how we don't truly enter that the true essence of the conversation. We forget sometimes this is a conversation. It needs to be two ways. You know, it's not a cosmic vending machine when we just wait for something to come out of it.
Yeah, that is very true. One of the younger generation, lovely Ashley, is saying, you can always send a voice note. Ashley, we're of a generation, mate, that, you know, I'm sorry, a microwave confuses me at times. So.
He's only just updated his phone.
I know. I've only just got a phone that can hook up to the internet, and I keep going, whoa, because it rings. Anyway, meanwhile, back in the conversation. So, how can we as sensate beings and individuals, how can we foster and encourage this progressive energy within spiritualism? There's a question.
In what context are you referring to?
Well, we're talking about the absence of, in the mainstream, of personal development for the mediums.
Right.
You know, it's all about the phenomena. You can make a message, do this, you can say this, you can do that. But there's just nothing about, you know, how does that make you feel?
Well, you know, we broached on it today that it means nothing unless you've got the basics of it. You know, you do need a foundation. You know, if you build a house on any old ground, it won't stand the test of time. It won't stand the merest tremor. You have a good foundation and then build on that foundation continually. You know, you're building that strength from the bottom up, from the core inside, to carry you through. Now, as I said, we started with prayer. That's the most fundamental part of it, you know, and I remember as Gordon Higginson saying that, you know, without prayer, you know, you really shouldn't be taking the next step.
Yeah.
You know,
and
it's true. So, you know, the prayer, I don't mean that we stand there, you know, and spout it off from a church service. I'm talking about that deep, meaningful, personal prayer. You know, we don't need to metaphorically get on our knees, as I said before, because there's no need to beg. You know, the great divine spirit knows what we want, need, and desire, but it's about being present. And I think if we can be present with the divine in those quiet moments, And as I said to you that today to the students is, you know, don't focus on the thought. Stop trying to stop the thought. Stop trying to acknowledge it and move it on. Just the thoughts there, but look at the space in between. Focus on the space in between. That's far easier than actually, you know, trying to deal with that thought, trying to move it along. And in focusing and learning on that, you know, that will help you in your mediumship, where you go into that quietness, where you're having that blending, you know, you're being at one with the spirit world. And really it is about the fundamental thing. Part of this is being aware but being present. And I think sometimes we kind of lost that art.
Very true. Very true, because we weren't instilled with that art at the beginning.
Sorry?
Because we weren't instilled with that at the beginning.
Absolutely. You know, you've got, as I said, you've got to have a good foundation, you know, for anything that you built on. You've got to have that good, that principle. And I see, it's so sad when I see some, I mean, you're the same, I watch mediums who really are not ready for the platform.
Yeah.
Haven't got that.
Sadly, yes.
You know, and these mediums, you know, when I see them, some of them, and you think, my God, they could really be very good. But now they've been pushed and pushed and pushed to be a medium, to get out on that little hamster wheel and start pedaling away at it and turning out. And yet they're not equipped. They're not equipped for what is to come. And it comes all crumbling down. And we lose those people. And that's such a shame.
Very much so. I've seen people, you know, I've seen mediums work who they need further development, and that's not a slur, because none of us are there.
No,
we're all continually developing.
absolutely.
But when you see that they really are trying, and this is part of their journey, that's great. But then you see the ones who either ego or friends have pushed out and told how wonderful, and they start actually believing what people close to them are telling them. And like you say, they haven't got the equipment to carry through some of the communications, which could be incredibly emotional.
Absolutely. You know, let's not forget what a good communication is about. It's to bring healing, to bring peace, to bring that love, and to get us to realize that life is continuous, so that we will then hopefully foster that in our human life, in this physical life, and help us become fully more mature and able to go forward into the next life fully equipped. And I don't see that seeing that happen.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what you see or if it's any different, but it really, I find it slightly uncomfortable.
As we've been talking this weekend, and I've voiced to you my unease with the movement at the moment, because it's as I say, this attacking each other is, I really can't find the proper word to say how it makes me feel. Yeah. It is sickening to me to see this stuff going on. The endless reliance on the message. You know, I'm a spiritualist because I love the vibrancy. I'll sit here as you do, sit and talk with your team, and you talk. It is a very animated conversation. It's a very lively conversation. It's a very fulfilling conversation. But we seem to be spending an awful lot of our time trying to find out what Great Aunt Edna said 20 years ago, rather than finding out actually what does Great Aunt Edna want to say about today's world. Because, you know, we can't keep our hook in the past all the time.
Yeah, absolutely true. You know, it is, it's, it's okay. Yeah, you get the generic information. Now, I don't try to dissuade anybody from the generic and information, because I believe you should be able to back that up with more. So if you get the aunt, the nan who did cooking and baking, okay, that's fine. Yes, we accept it's generic if you leave it there. But we, as working mediums or mediums of a certain standard, as we profess to be, should be able to pursue that and get into that conversation. This is where now I leap in. What kind of cooking did you do? What kind of baking? What was your favorite thing to bake? Did you and the recipient do this together? Was this your profession, or was it just a hobby? All that from that one statement should be able to tell a bit of a story.
Yeah, well, most definitely. And in establishing that evidential side, totally invaluable. But I also feel that we are missing a trick of just staying with a 30-year-old memory. My mum and dad were my dad was ex-army, fought in the Second World War. He was quite well decorated. My mum was me mum. I take after me mum, everybody, so don't blame me, blame my mum. And they were incredibly vocal about today's world, with their thoughts, with conversation. And I'm not seeing this. They're just...
They could. We know that in the spirit world it's different, and a lot of people would say, oh well, they're in that world, they can't interfere in with this. Well, nobody's asking them to interfere, but if they're coming through as a true likeness of who you remember, they would have had opinions.
Exactly.
And it's okay to air those opinions, how it is, and then you could finish off, which I try to encourage my students with. Encourage them to finish. I get them to encourage them to finish with, what are they doing now? Because I generally found there's a message in that, whether so if somebody loved music or played music, are they doing something now with that music in the spirit world? Are they helping people of a musical nature, or are they experimenting with the notes? And we were talking about that the other night. So that in itself could be evidence, because I used something similar and the lady said to me, gosh, that is exactly what I would expect him to do, because that's how he was in life.
I had an identical experience during one-to-one, and I said that this person is doing X, Y, Z, and they went, that really makes sense. That was totally her nature. I understand that. And I thought, that's great, because it's that next step in bringing spirit alive. We know they're alive. We bring the evidence through to prove they're alive, and then we still keep them at this arm's length, let them talk.
You see, yeah, it's absolutely right, because we can't prove per se that they're alive. Okay, but the evidence should speak for itself. That is what brings that to life for the recipient. So giving this skimming of the surface really does not prove a whole lot, does it? It gives a tiny little glimpse of a deep pool. That's it. If we were to dive deeper into that pool, gosh, the wealth of knowledge that the recipient then can say, absolutely, they're here, they're alive, they're with me. And that's what we're supposed to do. I found, even with some of these students today, said to me, I never thought I could, I could ask spirit world questions. I could ask them a sort of thing, and I said, well, that's part of a communication. The message, if we can't focus this is me personally, and I'm saying it online, but when we talk about the message, the meaning of message means to me is kind of one way. When if it's a conversation, a communication, it's a conversation. That's you
Definitely.
and the spirit world.
Definitely. And again, a similar conversation we were having after a wonderful fish and chip supper from the, can't remember the name of it, the lovely fish and chip shop. Very nice. Anyway, very expensive, but very nice. And I've forgotten what I was going to say now. See, being clever, Lawrence, you idiot. Where are we going? Where are we gone? Where have you been? When we're talking about this involvement with the other world and opening up this conversation and allowing that freedom of expression from both sides to flow through and flow freely, there we go. The conversation we were having earlier, and I was saying, why do we not see the names? Because when we go back to the pioneers, they were there rattling them off, weren't they? Got Bert and Joy and all this, all these people that made perfect sense of the sitter. And I likened it to where our form of evidential mediumship over the years has been dumbed down in its teaching. What do you think about that? And tell me if I'm wrong. I'm wrong. That's fine.
Oh, I wouldn't say about the names. I don't think we try enough for the names, really, as well. We're afraid to take that step because we're afraid to be wrong,
Yeah.
And I don't mind being wrong. I've tried, and the more you try, the better the effort or the outcome will be. The spirit will try harder with you. Quite often I'll give a name, but it's not the communicator, it's somebody related to them, how it comes through. So we've been focused on, we have to give certain things. I don't know how we've got into that, but we've been focused, well, we have to, give them the time of death, how they died, what job they did, what's their shoe size, and all of this. We don't allow that natural scope of communication. When you meet a friend, you don't suddenly go and say, "What was your will? How was your will? What did you do?" And straight away, we allow them to unfold that and the natural progression. And we've really got to do that with the spirit world. We've got to allow that naturalness to come back into it, and then, join in the conversation once we've got something to talk about, instead of demand.
Yeah. Name, age, national insurance number.
I'm sure if I'm a spirit, in the spirit, and somebody's trying to contact me, I'd get very fed up of that demand. In fact, I think I'd probably not want to come through at all.
Yeah, I'm going to be exactly the same. And it's like the saying, isn't it, when you hear people saying, "Oh, it's all right, spirit will do it for me." One day I'm going to be up there and I'm going to hear that and I'm going to go, "Really?
Yes.
Am I really?"
You heard me say today, and I think we've got to reestablish that thought within ourselves. Well, actually, we do a lot of the work. We have to go looking for it. We don't just stand there like a lemon, and wait for it to just suddenly appear us. We have to go search, and we have to go looking. We have to be participating in that. We've got to be present, as I keep saying. And I just think we've lost that art somehow.
Well, it's just teaching about going into the stillness that's somehow evolved into going into passivity.
Yeah. The stillness is, for me, and I've always had that belief and worked from that, I lose nothing in stillness, but I have everything to gain. It's not the art of waiting to hear something. It's the art of feeling it, knowing that connection, knowing that strength that you feel at the core of your being, within the spirit of who you are. That makes me passionate. It makes me wanting to, move forward and know that, yes, this is right. This is real, because it's that speaks to you.
Mm.
That element, because it moves mountains, literally. Yeah.
Yeah. My brains could probably smell the burning in there. I was, I was just wondering if this list that has been around for many a year, we talk about CERT, communicator, evidence, reason, tie up. And these different lists that we're presented, that we've got to find this, got to find that, got to find this, got to find that. Is this part of the reason that we can be missing out on the depths of a communication, because we're sitting there treating them like a prisoner in a cell being interrogated?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't like it yourself, would you? Really?
You're saying I've been in prison?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I let that out.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I said not to share that. Okay. What part of not to share that are you struggling with?
Yeah. You it's it seems such a hard concept, but yet it's the easiest thing we can do. Really, to be still and to be silent, especially in today's life, is very hard, because we are overstimulated. And if we're not stimulated within a few minutes, our mind really can't seem to hold that or grasp that. Yeah. But years going past, before all online stuff, even before TV, they had a better angle on it than we did.
Yeah.
We've moved forward, yes, in technologies, but I do feel we've regressed in some other aspects.
Well, as our world changes, so does the way that we work with the spirit.
Absolutely.
Very common thing, people say, "Oh, spirit have changed the way they work with me," and I'm like, "No, they haven't. You've changed."
Yeah. As we were talking about that today, that we evolve, but the spirit world are there with us, side by side, at the same step and the same pace that we are. Yes, they're more highly evolved, but they up the ante with us as we progress, so they move their level forward with us. The spirit world know exactly what they want to say. It's us that adds all in or takes it all away. Yes. Does the spirit world work with us? It's a new spirit. No, it's not. They've just chosen to work with us now at a higher level, because we've attained that, or we've worked towards it, or we should have done, at least.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street. It's a two-way effort. Because we were talking about that and many things today, haven't we? And it's really, I think it's opened our eyes. Even me today, I've learned something from it as well, and and yet it was coming from my mouth, but and I think, oh, I must remember that one,
Yeah, because again, we come back to the passivity that seems to be the basis of many teachings. And I always say in my groups, don't be subservient to the other world. You do not sit there waiting for them to bring you something. You do not sit there while they come to you, because we're always so eager, aren't we, to give away our power to anybody else. And it's that realization, as we are sat here now, we are in the spirit world, and the spirit world is within us, and that's brilliant.
Yes, it is. I mean, we kind of always want to negate our own responsibility. Now, mediumship was never meant, it was never easy. It was never meant to be easy. It was meant to challenge us, because it is in that challenge. And if we meet that challenge head on, our growth occurs. Our learning heightens. We become a fuller expression of that spirit within, of the
Yeah.
God element within. And staying in the same place teaches us nothing. So, challenge your mediumship, challenge the spirit world. They're up for that. They
Mm.
really are. You know, we don't, we don't credit them half the time with the intelligence that they have, which far outstrips us. So we need to challenge them, challenge ourselves. And if we can start to do that, well, we should see mediumship really flourish. And I believe one day it'll come, Larry, but just at the moment, it seems to just be floundering a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is deeply upsetting to see this, because there's just so much that is accessible there. And it's not just about the evidential, the actual, just the communication, the talking. Trance mediumship at the moment seems to be very much the dish of the day with many people. Sadly, it's being, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is being supported by this myth that I'm going to sit there, shut my eyes, be totally unconscious, and spirit world's going to talk through me, and it's all going to be lovely, and I've had a lovely sleep, and then woken up to people clapping, and it's just like, no, you can't be any further from the truth.
Absolutely. It's a way of people think that they can, get rid of their responsibility in this. I'm not responsible for what being saying. Well, a wake-up call, yes, you are.
Yep.
If you disagree with something that's being said through you, you can stop that. It is perfectly within your remit there to do that. So I just feel that it's become a little bit more of a entertainment factor for me from what you're seeing. I remember the days when the true trance was philosophical. When there was, you listened. I mean, I remember Glyn many years and years ago, and this was, bless him, towards the end of his life here, and he was not well, but that man never flinched in trance. 2 hours he's out there, and it was the most uncomfortable seats you could ever imagine. My buttocks had gone numb, and so had my legs, but I never moved a muscle from that chair. The true trance will hold you, captivate you, teach you, and really involve you, and it is not a party gimmick, which it's seeming in some things. Now, I'm well aware we're being really blasé about this, and there are those people who are really true out there, medium or trans, evidential medium, sorry, or trans. And so we're not saying that everybody is like that, but this is where it becomes, where we are disheartened and we start being a bit more painting everybody with the same brush. But we are well aware, you and I, that there are those there that do care. They're wanting to better themselves. They're wanting to further it. They're wanting to do it for the spirit world. If you're wanting fortune and fame, then get out in the theatres and be an entertainer.
Yeah. Or become a train driver. You may not get the fame, but you'll certainly get the fortune. But again, with the trance, and my mind likes to play around with things. And I find myself more and more now talking about working in altered states, because everything we do, we are in an altered state.
Absolutely.
And to me, it's always just like this progressive condition that we go into. So what we would identify as trance is up here on the scale, but we must never forget that when we are doing our work as evidential mediums or healing mediums, we are in that altered state.
We are. I don't know about you. I tend to I can nearly forget my own name when I'm demonstrating,
Yeah.
or I will forget certain expressions I would normally use, and I can't find them when I'm working. because my mind is more moved into that higher state of being. You know, it's come away from the everyday conscious, but I'm still present. You know, it's still part of that. So yes, it is an altered state. You know, and if you're in that true altered state, you can go looking, you can inquire, you can ask. You know, Maggie here has put here, I'm loving the conversation because I've heard so many times that if you ask questions of the spirit, then you've left your connection and gone into your head. I can see why. You know, if you go into these lengthy, long questions, then you are going into your own head. But if you just simply ask, why was that? Where was that?
Hmm.
You know, keep it short. It's engaging. So you're not leaving that conversation, you're not moving into your own head, but you're still engaging the spirit.
Is to ask that simple why, where, who. You said it today with the W's.
The four W's, as I call it. Yeah.
That's it. Wonderful
Yeah.
tool to use. But when you ask those questions, also is required is to continue that conversation straight away, not to sit there, wait for the answer to come into your mind, let your mind go, I'm not sure about that. I'll phrase it another way, or, oh, no, I don't like that. Or, oh, that's great. You know, you've asked the question, don't complain about the answer. Let the answer just flow naturally.
Yeah. Think of it like a river, you know, as the river flows, it's got power, you
Yeah.
know, and it continues. If it stops and waits for a moment, it loses that power, you know. So you've got to keep on going with that. The art of asking the question is waiting for the spirit world to say what they need to say at the beginning. Then you can come in and say, why was that? Where was that? Who was that? What for? You know, just going into it, showing an interest and allowing that conversation to develop naturally. We should not control that conversation. We just need to partake it, let it, allow it to say. You know, quite a lot of the time, I'll find that some of the information doesn't come out till a little bit later, but I'm fine with that because that's the way that the spirit world want that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Lovely Barbara from Holland. Keep it short. The questions. What great advice.
Yeah.
I've lost totally the thread of what I was just about to say. Then going back to Maggie. Yeah, I get that. It is just easing into it because it should be like a conversation with an old friend.
It is. Yes, that's what it is. We've got to think
Yeah.
of them as, you know, as a friend, anybody who you were meeting in your home on the street or going out for coffee with, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, the circumstances are slightly different, you know, but it's still a conversation.
And when we have a conversation this side of life, like I know Maggie, lovely lady. Maggie, if me and you sit down and have a cup of coffee, you're paying, by the way. You know, we're not going to sit there in our head thinking, right, what can I ask them? Every time we talk, or when you get the response, sit there and take it apart in our head. It just flows. You just chat, like Chris and I are doing now. We're just chatting. And that energy is moving and flowing, and it's just wonderful.
You're exploring the possibilities. You know, you're exploring, you know, it I think, you know, what true evidence is it should move the recipient to feel and respond to the emotion. You know, giving, granny and baking, not a lot of emotion there. You know, it is when you're going through that conversation is where the emotion, that feeling can come, because that is what speaks to the recipient. So
Definitely.
you know, I like the saying, you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, I'm awfully sorry. Got fireworks going off, and the cat's just starting to go.
Oh, she'll come in
So
here in a minute, I suppose.
we should have our job. The door shut. It was a lovely Angela Foster, working with her on one of the online courses we did together. And she came up with this thing, and I thought, I really like this. And it was working with the first piece of evidence that you have, and building and extracting the story from that and just letting that unfold.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful to do because, you know, we all have different approaches, different teachers, different personalities. And you can see where we've just skimmed across because we're desperate, aren't we? To go, oh, I can see a book. I can see a mouse. I can see his cup. I can see too much whiskey for one man. And because we're desperate to try and get something.
Yeah. But does that tell us anything of the person? No.
Exactly.
We just can tell. You know, I said to you today as well, along with Andrew, I'm right there. You should only need 1 to 2 pieces of information at most, and you then can unfold a story. You know, but that only happens if you're willing to follow that, if you're willing to unpack that and go with it. You know, so what I'm basically saying is it's down to you. You know, when people say, but I can't get, you know, well, maybe try using the words I'll try instead of can't.
Yeah.
You know, just give it a try and go with it. Be true to you, be authentic to the spirit world. You know, the spirit world, I mean, can you imagine, you know, if you come back to me from the spirit world, because obviously you're 10 times older than me and you're going to pass first, but, you know, but if you come back to me, your sense of humor, can you imagine? I know that the way you would come through, that sense of humor, you'd want to portray that. You know? And if I'm a medium world of my soul, I should be able to bring an essence of that across.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, because when we think of, you listen to some evidence being given, and it's all very staid, isn't it? You know, and I think, well, does that really give a true reflection of their personality? You know, people in the spirit world, they had personalities, they had strong characters, they had strong opinions, you know, they had a certain way of seeing and viewing life. And yet somehow we're missing that because we're skimming the surface.
I always remember, and it was just so funny, I did not take the slightest bit of offense. I was working a venue, and this lady's mother was coming through, and it really was dentist time, trying to extract the information. It was like, God, you're hard work. And I said to her, why is this taking such a long time? You know, I don't understand what's going on. And the mother's voice in my ear said, well, I didn't really approve of people like you when I was on the earth. And I thought, oh my God. And that was part of I said, yeah, mother was not very tolerant of some people. And she went, oh God, no. And I said, well, she hadn't changed.
Yeah,
it was.
You've got to give a. You know, when you're doing the communication, you've got to give a true representation, a true reflection of how that person was. Yes, they may have progressed, and yes, they may have changed, undoubtedly within the spirit world, but their recipient's not going to recognize that.
Exactly.
You know, so you have to give this. I always remember this one episode, saying to this man, I'm coming to you. I've got your mother. Immediately, like this, you know. Immediately like that, I thought, all defenses are up here. But I knew why, because I saw the essence in this lady of my own mother. Now, I just started with the words, I didn't like you very much, and you didn't like me. Isn't that true, what you and your mother said? Well, this man burst into tears because that was his mother, along with a bit of other evidence. Not every mother was wonderful and kind. If you were to say tomorrow to me, I've got your mother, she loves you very much. Well, my answer would be, I'm sure she does now.
Yeah.
But not every mother was like that.
Yeah. But this is it. For the purpose of identification, they will assume that character persona that you knew. Otherwise, we can't identify it. But
No.
then we do have this wonderful ability to sort of like try and bring that forward and go, so what are you up to now?
Yeah. I mean, quite a lot of this is what I've been aiming to do in a lot of my communications is give them the reflection of how they were, but say, and then bring in with the fact, but this is what's changed. I'm not that same person. I've learned, I've done this, done that, and done the other, whatever it is, and they bring that in. And quite often, 9 times out of 10, the recipient, that's what they've wanted to hear. Have they changed? Have they
Yes.
learned? Have they evolved? If so, how? In what aspect? And we don't bring that through, but that's something I've been striving to do. Who are you now? Because I've got a lovely saying that a friend gave me a long time ago, and I believe it to work across all the realms. Tell me who I am, not who I was.
Yeah, very nice.
And why can't that apply to the spirit world? We can give the essence of who they were, but let's tell them who they are now.
Yeah.
And bring in the proof of, I've been watching you do this. I've been watching you asking me this.
But if we open ourselves up to that potential, it's probably not going to manifest every single time we make a communication. Yeah. But the fact that we've opened up that thought, that vision with us, there will be the times when it will arise, because again, it will be part of this healing journey, which is what we're all about.
If you wanted to get this information, first of all, for goodness sake, you've got to plant the seeds.
Yeah.
Before you can reap the blooms, so start bringing it in, as I was, trying to explain today, you want to work one way, well, this way or that way, then start experimenting with it, start planting the seed, and then you can later on harvest the results from that, and it pushes you, it challenges you. And that is what I was saying earlier. We need that challenge. We need to rise up and meet that challenge, because if not, we're in danger of becoming obsolete.
Yep.
The younger generations coming up below us, they're going to want more. They want more. They want to know. They're more factual than we ever were. In our generation, we were a little bit more told, accept what you're given. The younger generations are not like that anymore, and rightly so.
Yeah. A lot of work ahead.
Absolutely.
But very achievable.
It is. All things under God are achievable, as they say. Yep. It's lovely in this room, I'm getting a lot of spirit orbs going around.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, we do.
Yeah.
But again, I've been a little tick that I've had for a few months now is when we're talking about the different types of reading and including cold readings, because we do it. We meet people and we observe and we look, and all the time we're doing it, we're bringing that picture of that person into our neat little box, and then that's all we're going to see. Yeah. Well, when we're working as mediums, that can be hugely restrictive.
Absolutely.
To us. Hugely. Absolutely. Just somebody by their age, they're talking about paragliding. You think, no, they're too old for that.
Yeah.
So how do you know? My admission, now this is my admission. on this. That's all right. It's your show. You should be talking, but never mind. I'll take over now. Was when I was fairly new out on the platform. If we had youngsters in the congregation, and I'm talking late teens to mid-20s, that sort of generation, I used to think, why are they here? Because they don't know anybody who's dead. Because in my life, at that time, I didn't know anybody who died. So I didn't understand. I had no concept of the impact that a passing, and especially of a parent or a sibling, would have had, because I never had that. So Lawrence's mind was like, well, they can't know anybody who's dead. And until one day, and I took a reading for a young lady of about 22, and I just sat there and I went, right, go for it. And it was mother and father came through. Now, I had let the spirit talk, but in the back of my mind, I'm going, well, this can't be right. Of course it's right. How unbelievably arrogant was I, to say that? But it was because I'd done everything on my experience. You're that age. I never faced grief when I was in my mid-20s. So, yeah, okay, well, you can't either.
We tend to do a lot from our judgment, our perspective, our own lives, how we've lived that. There is real at the other end of the spectrum here, there's real danger now where we come to somebody 50s, 60s, possibly even the 70s, and you look at them, oh, safe bet their parents are in the spirit world. Well, not always the case now, because people now live a lot longer. So, there's a real danger then of bringing in your assumptions, and judging a book by its cover, So now I believe we have to really do the work and look into that and not be so judgmental.
Yeah, and it's to remove the play safe banner.
Yes.
I won't say a name because I might get it wrong. I won't say mother in case it's grandmother. So it's a feminine, feminine energy coming around you, and just think, really, what?
We get it. We all get things wrong. I get things wrong, but I then back it up because, like I've said, I want to bring mother through. And that's the mother vibe I've got. No, my mother's still here. Then I'm still going with that because then this is mother's mother and she actually brought you up.
Yeah.
If you go out and look at it. And so she was perceived as mother. Is that correct? Yeah. And then you'll find it is. So your initial thought isn't wrong, but just the way I delivered it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Or to say, when you're saying mother and it's grandmother, I said, okay, so grandmother had a significant part of your upbringing. She was a part of your life when you were a child. Yes. There we
go. Yeah. You choose the way you want to put it, but, in essence, it's just going with that. I see people who say that, and then you can see the panic in the face that the mother's still here. And they don't know how to, especially those who are, shall we say, out there a little too soon, and they don't know how to deal with that, where to go with it. They haven't got the experience.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we do see it and again, not everybody, I'm not tarring everybody with the same brush. Yeah. I've had it in my groups and circles. People say, oh, God, you're really strict, aren't you? And I just think, well, not overbearingly, but I want you to get it right because I can see in you great potential. I've started saying to people now, listen, if you just want somebody to keep patting you on the head and going, oh, you're wonderful, oh, you're so good, this is not the circle for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to sell you or the spirit world short just to keep you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're too conscious about saying the right thing, not upsetting people, looking at the values. So sometimes, obviously there's a way of doing it, but you've got to be honest. You're not wanting to beef somebody up when they're really it's not there, because what you're actually doing is setting them up for a tremendous fall.
Exactly. And most of the time, the reason is because we said it today about a couple of people, there's just something there. They walk in the room and they go, "Ooh, you're interesting. I want to know more because you're interesting."
Yeah.
And when you're working with people like that and you just go, "I know you can do more. All right, maybe I'm not the circle leader for you. I understand that totally." It was beautiful today because an awful lot of what you said today were echoes of what I've been saying in the group. And it was like, that's really good. It's the same premise, it's the same thought, different wordage, but it's the same. It's that same underpinning this.
Sometimes we just need that confirmation, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, today I was hopefully demonstrated it well enough, but showing that, just simply reading the aura can tell us so much, about the person, also whether this is right for you or am I right for you?
Yeah.
And what that person's thinking. It isn't magic, it isn't anything that, but it's being able to demonstrate what you say you can do.
Very important.
Yes.
Very important.
Because, isn't it the old people of yesteryear used to say, be sure your sins will catch you out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's I think it's been an interesting journey today, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it with you. It's been absolutely brilliant and a pleasure.
Well, I'm very confident that the people that left here at the beginning, it may not have been what they thought it was going to be because it wasn't the generic, okay, how do you make a link? Straight in there without any wherewithal about where people are on their journey. It gave people a very good foundational view before you start running out trying to make a link. And at the end of the day, they all agreed with that. And I didn't have to force it out of one of them. That was quite good.
Yeah, it was. I think it was beneficial. I mean, for God's sake, if you're going to dig a hole, at least provide a spade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
so it is. You've got to give people the tools for them to be able to work.
Yeah.
They do the work, but I'm there as a facilitator to provide those tools.
You said a phrase and it really stuck in my mind because it appealed to the engineer side of me. It's no use explaining the mechanics of something if you don't know what the application is.
Yeah.
And I've never heard it put that way, but I went, "Ooh, yeah."
Yeah. And I really stand by that. Yeah. I think it sums everything up. Certainly for me.
Yeah. Chris.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Been absolutely wonderful evening. Thoroughly enjoying your company down here. When you come back in the living room, you're going to have to lay behind the settee with the cat because she's now absolutely mortified by fireworks, bless her heart. And you can do that. You're only a wee fella. You can get behind there.
Thank you. I don't know whether is that a compliment or a put down.
Listen, it's a compliment, all right? People say to me, "Have I upset you?" And I went, "You would really know if you'd upset me, to be quite honest." If you'd upset me, you wouldn't have had to ask me that.
I think
it's been lovely.
You've got to be truthful both in life and with spirit. And if you can do that, then you're living to the truest form of you.
And as I say, going, this is lovely because it's going right the way back to the beginning where we were talking about some of this clyping, for a Scottish phrase, good Scottish word, between mediums, and it's just fine if you're doing that route. If that's the way you want to work, that's absolutely fine. Because we've got to remember, a lot of the time, these people actually haven't asked for an opinion. they've just put something out there, and then everybody's rocked up with their opinions. And
Absolutely.
the first question is, did I actually ask you your opinion? Anyway, very quick note there from the lovely Pauline. If we can get up. There we go. Have I? I'm back.
Oh, you froze. I didn't know, so I don't know if it's my computer or what.
Oh, it's the gremlins. Say, lovely comment there from lovely Pauline. Good conversations and lovely Matt. Love listening. So, Chris, been super evening. Lovely Maggie, Marie, and Barbara. And it's time to say good night.
It is. Thank you all for joining us. It's been a pleasure. It really has. And thank you, Lawrence.
Pleasure. Oh, lovely John from Denmark. Hello, John. Remember, you can also see Chris delivering and leading our divine service tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. GMT. Remember, please, we get an extra hour in bed in the UK. I think it's the same for Europe, but it's different for America. But that'll be live from the church on Facebook. Lovely Moya. Apologies for not being out on Facebook last week. Unfortunately, the gentleman doing the streaming managed to lock himself out of the computer, which is always quite amusing. Never mind. We will go through another lesson tomorrow. But it is available to watch on our YouTube. Remember that. If we're not on Facebook for whatever reason, just flip over to the YouTube channel and we're on there. In the meantime, Lawrence, shut up. Chris, thank you very, very much. It's been real interesting talk. Everybody's enjoyed it. Thank you to the people joining us live tonight. Thank you too to the people who will watch or listen to this in coming days, weeks and months and maybe years. Strange thought, isn't it? 20 years down the line, somebody might be listening to this going, well, that was wrong, wasn't it? Because we've learned now so-and-so.
Who was that, Herbert?
Yeah, what are they talking about? My God, where are they? From the Stone Age?
Yeah.
Anyway,
thank you all.
Thank you. And good night, everybody.
Good night.